Hey folks, this week we've been talking about time studies, and I want to spend a little bit more today talking in greater detail on how to use a time study to hire. This is one of the greatest uses that I've found for the time study data, and we're going to dive into some specific examples around how you can take that data and actually use it to make better hiring decisions. Let's go ahead and get into it. So just a brief recap on what a time study is. A time study is an exercise that you go through as a business owner to look at how you are spending time in your business and what you're actually doing for the time that you work. And this could be used if you're a solo entrepreneur. This could be used if you're running a large corporation or anywhere in between. A time study can apply to your business. You can get value out of doing a time study. Now, when you do a time study, you are going to get a lot of data. That's the whole point, is getting data around the different tasks that get completed, how much time you or others in your business spend on those tasks, and maybe some additional information you want to capture around things like systems in your business that are being worked or not being worked, things like that. So when you have all this data at the end of your time study, you then want to do analysis on that data and figure out how things are going, where are you spending the most of your time, where are you not spending enough time, and you get a lot of insights into what's actually happening in your business and what should happen less and what should happen more based on how you're spending that time. One of the main uses of the data is to look at who you need to hire next in your business. So I want to walk through an example here, and we'll just assume for this example, you're a solo entrepreneur, you're looking to make your first hire in your business, and we'll talk through how a time study is going to help you do that. Now, even if you already have employees in your business, walk along with me, because you'll see when we get to the back half of this, you'll be able to use this same thing for any additional hires you make in your business. So for our example, let's just say you've gone, again, you're a solo entrepreneur, you've done your time study, and you've looked at how it is you're spending time in your business. And we'll just go through some of the highlights here. So let's say you have spent 9.5 hours in the last week working on business development. We're going to say you spent 6.75 of an hour working on social media, responding to comments, making posts, that kind of stuff. 6.5 hours on email, and 6.25 hours on a webinar delivery that you did. Those were the top areas where you spent time in the last week. And again, this is just an example. Obviously for you, it's going to be different. But just for our example, that's what we're going to say came out as our activities that took the most time from our last week. And that's really where you want to start. When you look at all of the data from your time study, consolidate all the activities and where you spent your time, and then start at the areas where you spent the most amount of time. That's where you're going to find the biggest opportunity to actually reduce what it is that you're doing. Now, it's not 100% always true that where you're spending the most amount of time is going to be where you can make the biggest cuts. You might be doing activities they require a lot of your time, and you have to do them, and you can't really do less of those activities for your business. But that's where you're going to generally find the most opportunity. So start with the tasks where you have spent the most amount of time, and we're going to look at those one by one. As you go through what you did in that last week for that task, start to think about that next level of activities. So we said 9.5 hours on business development. What is that next level of activity? Maybe you were doing sales calls. Maybe you were doing follow-up emails. You might have been just answering general questions to a sales email address that you have for your business. Think about that next level down and some of those smaller pieces. Now you can start to think about, if I was going to bring somebody onto my business, how much of this 9.5 hours could I actually give to somebody and feel good about that? And as you walk through that, you might find all of it could be done by somebody else, or you want done by somebody else, maybe just a part of it. Or you might look at that and say, hey, I really don't want anybody else doing business development. That's what I do best, and I'm really good at it, and I enjoy it, and I don't want to hand any of that off. That's fine. Any one of those you might find as your answer to each one of these items as you look through them. You want to get rid of all of it, you want to get rid of some of it, or you want to get rid of none of it. So going through those top items, next we're going to look at social media management. And again, dive down just one level deeper and think about, what did I actually do? How does that time break out? So we said 6.75 hours. Maybe I spent 2 hours writing just new posts. Maybe I spent 2 hours commenting on other people's posts, and the rest of the time I spent just responding to people that commented on my stuff. You might decide that, hey, responding to comments and answering questions that people have about my stuff, I can pretty easily hand that off to somebody else. So there's a couple hours that I'm going to chunk out and have somebody else do. Once you do that for each of your items, you're going to end up with a list of tasks that are good candidates for moving over to have somebody else do. And you want to think about grouping those a little bit just based off of the type of tasks that they are, because ultimately you're going to have to find a person or persons that can do those things for you. And depending on what it is you do in your business, you might need a couple of different skill sets that aren't usually found in one person. Okay, that's where it starts to get a little bit challenging. So if you think about, we've got business development that we want to move over to somebody else. We've got social media management that we want to move over to somebody else. It's probably going to be challenging to find somebody that's going to be really great at both of those things that we want to actually hire into our business. So what we might end up having to do is find one person that's going to do the business development and find a different person that's going to do the social media management. Don't pretend that you're going to be able to find somebody that cares about all the aspects of your business as much as you do, and that you're going to find this unicorn that's just going to be able to fill all of the needs and desires that you have. So you have to look at those tasks and think logically about, what might I actually find in a person that I want to bring into my business, and how many different people maybe am I looking at? So once you have that broken out, you can start to identify the skill sets that each of those people are going to need. Now, it's quite possible you just ended up with one person and you think, hey, somebody like a virtual assistant is going to easily be able to handle this. It's a lot of just follow up. It's a lot of responding to basic questions. And you might just end up with only one person that you need to hire. But what you want to do for each of those groups is go through and look at, what are the actual skills that I want this person to have? So you think about looking at a job description. And if you need some inspiration here, you could go to a website like Indeed.com and start looking for jobs that are going to be similar to the job that you want to hire for. And you can look at those job postings and start to figure out, hey, what are the skills that I really need this person to have? Things like attention to detail, good communication, patience, dealing with conflict. Some of those soft skills, you might need some more of the technical skills as well. Maybe you're looking to hire somebody to do your WordPress stuff for you. Start listing out the skills that the people or person that you're going to hire needs to have. Another thing you want to do when you're going through and doing that is allocate the time that you spent to each of those tasks. You're going to start to build up a view of, how much time am I going to need to hire somebody for to do these different tasks? Now, you might need to make some adjustments if you had anomalies. So you think you're using data from what you actually did last week. You might need to adjust and say, well, that as far as business development goes, maybe that was an anomaly. You did some extra activity that you don't normally do, and you really only have an average of 6 hours a week instead of 9.5. You want to make some adjustments like that. And if you need to gather time for another week, That's where gathering 2 weeks in a row can become useful. If you had a bunch of big anomalies and you want to just get a comparison 1 week to the next, what does it really look like? Either use a second week of data or make some adjustments based on your knowledge of your business. But for each of those tasks, you want to identify how much time do I think a person would spend on this each week. So now that you've done those activities, you've got a list of the things that an employee is going to do in your business, the skills that that person is going to need to do those activities, and the amount of time that they're going to spend on these activities. You'll have all the things you need to put together a good list and a good job description to start getting candidates that you can talk to. This is also another opportunity where you can go and look at other job descriptions and spend some time looking at what other people have written. That's going to be inspirational to help you figure out, are you asking for the right things? Are you missing anything? And combined with the actual data that you have from your business, you'll be able to put together a pretty good description of the job and get together everything that you need to actually post it and start hiring. You can also use this information if you are looking at using some type of vendor or resource company where you're actually just getting a contractor. You're not actually making the hire yourself for your business, but you can start a conversation with potential human resource partners and use that description that you've come up with as far as having that conversation with them and identifying what type of contractor resource you want to use to add to your business. Now, this is a template that you can use for all future hires. So again, if you've already got employees in your business, you can use this same template, this same approach to additional hires that you make in your business. Start with that time study, do it for a week or two and figure out where people are actually spending their time. And then from there, you can start to cut out, here's the time that I want this new hire or the tasks that I want this new hire to do. You'll be able to identify the skill sets needed. You'll be able to identify how much time each week they're going to spend on that task. And you'll be able to use that to come up with any additional hires in your business, from hire 2 to hire 1,000. Obviously, as you grow, you're not going to necessarily do a time study across your whole business. If you've got 1,000 employees, you're not going to have everybody do a time study to hire a new salesperson or to hire a new project coordinator. You're going to break it down and look at the smaller team and see, hey, I have this team of 6 project coordinators. Let me do a time study with them. And then I can figure out what I want or need in that 7th coordinator for that team. So it works at scale. No matter how big your business is, you're just going to do it on a more focused level instead of having your whole business do it. If you're smaller, anywhere between the 1 to 10, even maybe up to 20 size company, it's valuable to have everybody go through and do it. And that will then give you the ability to balance out who's on your team already, what is the work that they're doing, what kind of work makes sense for a new person to do. You're able to balance out that team and make sure you get the right resource at the right time coming in. That does it for using a time study to improve your hiring process. As usual, if you have any questions or comments on this, leave them down below. Reach me on any of your preferred social media channels or send me an email at brian@optimizeForOutcomes.com. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you online.